Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Time for your garden questions, our garden answers. You can send them over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call toll free, coast to coast, at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. If we can't get to you, leave a message. We'll call you back with an answer to your question. What do we got, Holly? 4 questions here.
All right, so I just watched one of your videos on YouTube about building and filling raised garden beds. My question is, what do you do to prevent weeds from growing up into the garden? We live in Florida, and the grass and weeds here grow quickly and take over. If you don't use anything in the bottom of the bed to prevent weeds, is there anything you would recommend to use?
Well, if you have raised beds, you're going to have weeds no matter what you do. The severity of the weeds will dictate on the preparation of the bed and your environment. If you're going to build a raised bed, you can put a couple of layers of cardboard down on the ground. Now, if you're just going to put a raised bed over top of a manicured lawn or grass, you're going to have no problem at all. Where you get into issues is if you're going to build a raised bed over an area that is not the most prettiest of grass, where you have lamb's quarter, you have thistles, you have weeds growing up. The 2 layers of cardboard will help smother out some of those less aggressive weeds. However, when we put our raised beds in, personal experience here telling you how it is, we had a problem with thistles. Now, we had a problem with thistles in the ground garden prior in years when we didn't have raised beds, when we just did in-ground garden. So we did put weed barrier down as the cardboard on the base of the raised beds, yet it's still the aggressiveness of the thistles work through the cardboard and 8, 9, and 10 inches of soil. So instead of using a glyphosate weed killer, we did use an organic weed killer to burn the tops off as we saw them emerge through the compost. We also took the method of taking a shovel or a spade and going as deep as we could and then cutting it off below soil grade, 4 or 5 inches deep, however far we could, continuously throughout the summer to stress the plant out to the point where it's not capable of regenerating energy to find the sunlight to photosynthesize. So it took about 1 season, and since we had stressed those plants out and did that with the thistles, the thistle problem has dissipated. We do have problems with regular weeds, some fescue, some of that, some lamb's quarter, primarily because of the lack of getting on top of the weeds before the weeds get too big. We all face this problem. We've just kind of, should have done it last week, going to do it next week. 2 weeks later, and then the weeds get too big, and we got to pull them out. So I think that's answered the question. I don't know, but hopefully that has helped. Does the raised bed reduce the amount of weeds? Yes, to a degree, but it is all based on what the land is doing before you put the raised bed on. Now, can you put an actual weed barrier underneath the raised bed? You certainly can. The disadvantage to that is the lack of natural enzymes and bugs and worms migrating from native soil up into the raised bed. You're prohibiting that. You're blocking that off, just as if you're putting a raised bed on a concrete surface. So I would advise to not do that, to deal with the weeds, to allow the worms and the native bugs and insects to migrate up into your raised beds for the long term.
Now, there you go. That's very smart. So, other question came in is it safe to grow flowers and non-edibles in full-size tractor tires? And the short answer is yes, as long as they are non-edibles, flowers, etc. It is possible that some of the chemicals can leach into the soil, but if you're growing flowers, it's fine. You don't want to, in turn use that soil for a vegetable garden. You want to keep it separate for those ornamentals and whatnot.
And you can also paint your tires. You can do it in car tires or whatever. You can paint whatever and have it very aesthetically pleasing, and don't have to worry about that. Okay, what else do we have here? I got to find the sheet here.
Can I grow garlic from seed? So you can, but it's a very long process and it's not really guaranteed.
Right. Growing garlic from seed, planting garlic seed is a bit difficult than the actual garlic clove that we are familiar with. While seed garlic will produce a harvestable crop following years of garlic seed taking. It takes a bit longer to harvest. The tiny bulblets is much smaller than the garlic clove, and the plant will need a full year to generate and establish in the soil to grow a full-size garlic clove. So, if you're planting garlic in the fall, the cloves will plant in October and harvest as early as early June. Usually we got the hard neck, so you got the scapes. So we let it set and harvest the scapes and let it set for a couple more weeks to kind of die back a little bit. And then early July, we harvest the garlic bulb. If you are planting garlic seed, you're going to plant it in the fall as normal, but you're not going to touch it until the fall again. So that real estate, based on the value of it in your backyard, do you need it? Can it set aside for garlic for a whole year, or do I need it in the summer after I plant it in October, harvest it in June, and then plant a late crop of potatoes or tomatoes or fill in the blank? Up to you, but the advantage of the clove is we plant in October, harvest it in June. It's large. The larger the clove, the better opportunity to have larger bulbs, and we find it to be a less hassled deal. Now, with the hardneck, when it goes to escape, if left unharvested, that scape will grow vertical, much like you will see in a leek or onion, and put on a very big flower, which will contain contain garlic seed. That is what you would be planting. But we remove the scape about 4 weeks prior to harvesting the bulb in order to reduce the energy that would be put into the scape to maximize the bulb development that last 4 weeks, so we can get as big of a bulb as we possibly can. So that is what I would recommend. Obviously, if you want to try to do such by planting garlic seed, you can do that. But I find that the bulb planting is good for what we need to. So, with that being said, we are out of time, and it's time for what we learned today.
Yeah, so I learned today that you should not neglect your evergreen maintenance on your trees.
I learned from our guest, Daryl Frey, that in a permaculture setting, the drip line of a mature tree, you can actually plant things around that in order to act as a natural irrigation system, which is pretty neat. What we learned today is brought to you by Honey Bee Healthy.
HoneyBeeHealthy.com is serious about the business of bees and helping beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Whether you're a professional beekeeper or a bee hobbyist, we've got the products to help you maintain a healthy hive. Honey Bee Healthy products are made in the USA. Visit honeybeehealthy.com.